Been a really exciting time in the graphics card world of things with the 4070 Super, 4080 Super, and then the 4070 Ti Super being released. Now Gigabyte has sent me the 4070 Super today, but I'm going to be doing something a little bit different. What I'm going to be doing differently today is I'm going to be looking at the entire range of NVIDIA 4000 series cards and doing a comparison between all of them, the EOLs, the ones that are current, and the price differences and performance differences between them. But before I get too ahead of myself, I'd like to thank Gigabyte for sending me the 4070 Super for, well, what we're going to do today, which will become a little bit more evident as we go through the video. What I am going to be doing in the coming weeks is I am going to have all the statistical data that you need to be able to make actual comparatives on performance. So we will look at the 4070 Super in that way. And the reason that we're waiting is because I want to get a 7800X3D so that I can standardize all my tests. I don't want to have varying results so that whenever I present something to you, it's from a standard CPU or GPU, depending on what we're going to be reviewing at that time. And just a note, I will be getting the 4070 Ti Super very soon, and that I'm going to put through its paces and give you all the results, and then I'll be comparing them with the 4070 Super and the other cards. To get to the point of what we are going to be doing today is we're going to be doing a full unboxing. We're going to look at the design of the card and we're going to speak about the design of the card. And then we're going to do, as I mentioned in the beginning of the video, we're going to look at the entire range and do all the comparisons. So let's go through the unboxing and then chat about the design. One thing I just realized that I didn't tell you is which card we are going to be reviewing. Yes, we know it's a Gigabyte. Yes, we know it's a 4070 Super, but it is the Gigabyte 4070 Super Gaming OC Edition 12 GB. Design-wise, it's pretty much identical, well, it is identical to what we saw in the 4070, the Gaming OC Edition from Gigabyte, so nothing much to talk about on that point. Dimensions are also the same in that it's 300mm by 130mm by 57.6mm. No change in the outputs as they weren't really needed. We have one HDMI 2.1A and we have three DP 1.4As. The power supply recommendation from Gigabyte also stays the same at 700 watts, and this uses the 12V HPWR interface or the plug-in, but don't worry if you don't have that because it does come with the adapter. We still stick with the 3-fan alternating design, which was really efficient in the 4070 itself and has been efficient for Gigabyte for quite a few cards. So that remains the same. For cooling, we still have the massive copper heat plate with flow control. That is the copper going into the pipes, going into the actual sinks. So quite an efficient design. Also using 3-fan with alternating design, and this is something that has worked. It also runs nice and silently. The only firm critique that I would have on the card at this point is the RGB. The Gigabyte logo is well illuminated, but if you look at the fans, it's a little bit dull because it's using a reflective type of RGB effect. It's actually plastic that is wrapped around the fans at the top, and then it's reflected onto those. So it's not as well illuminated as the logo, but again, this is an entry-level card, so you can't be that critical. Now, I don't want to rehash what we already know because the architecture stays the same. It's at a Lovelace. Nothing much is going to change there. The things that we are going to see change is RT core count, tensor core count, as well as the actual CUDA core count. RAM will have some differences. So I have done a nice looking kind of spreadsheet to actually do the comparisons. And the point that I want to make before we go to our conclusion and before we actually speak about this is the range has been so well structured in that the 4070 Super, the Ti Super, and the 4080 actually slot in perfectly along the range. Almost too perfectly in that this was planned maybe right from the beginning. NVIDIA is a big company, so they probably would do that. But it's almost like a paper launch and a filler launch for me. But the nice thing that we'll see is the pricing, which we'll get to now. So let's go over the actual presentation. So as you can see, I've plotted all the 4000 series from the 4060 all the way through to the 4090. Now, our specific focus today is going to be on the 4070 and the 4070 Super. Note that we will be doing the 4070 Ti and the Ti Super because I will be benchmarking that very soon, and I will have all the results for the 4070 Super. But let's look at this in a nutshell. Now, the architecture stays the same. They are both at a Lovelace. That was never going to change. But the base clock has changed from 1.92 on the normal, and then the Super is a little bit higher at 1.98. The boost clock remains the same. The ray tracing core is the same, both are 3rd generation, and the tensor cores are both the same at 4th generation. Now, the first notable difference is on the ray tracing core counts. On the 4070, we had 46, but now we have 56 on the 4070 Super.
Another big difference is the tensor core count. We had 184 on the 4070 all the way up to 224 on the 4070 Super. CUDA core count is the biggest difference here at 5888 all the way up to 7168. No change obviously to DLSS version. It is DLSS 3 across the range, and then the encoder is AV1 across the range with the alternate of H.264. Now, RAM here stays the same on the 4070 versus the Super. It's 12 gigs of GDDR6X. The memory bus stays the same at 192-bit, and the memory speed stays at 21 gigabits effective. Now, where we have another difference again is on average gaming power. We have gone from 186 to 200, and that's because we have got more ray tracing cores, more tensor cores, and more CUDA cores. So this is going to be pulling more, but it seems that it's not as in line with the amount that we increased the CUDA cores. So for 14 watts extra, not bad performance. So it's actually got more effective. Obviously, this is only going to be proven factually correct with testing, but on the total graphics power, it has gone from 200 to 220. Now, to wrap up what I've been trying to say in the video is this a paper launch? Firstly, if we look at the 4060 all the way through to 4090, it's incremental growth on all of them, from the 4060 all the way through to maybe the 4080 Super. Obviously, the 4090 is in a league of its own, but it is going to be interesting to see what the 4080 Super does against the 4090 in real gaming performance. However, if we look at the MSRPs on the 4070, it launched at, I believe, $599, and it's dropped now to $549. Now, the 4070 Super is launching at $599, which means it's launching at the same price as 4070, but with theoretically a lot more performance. So what this means is that the consumer is going to get a lot more bang for their buck, especially on the Super. But what I really want to see is the TI Super, because that looks like it could be a massive gain from the 4070 Ti, which is going to be end of life. So that's all I have to say on this. I will leave this on the screen so that you can look, or rather just pause, but it's a very interesting progression to see what they've done from the 4060 all the way through to the 4090. But when I do the test, we'll actually see what is what and what is the best buy. My money is going to be on the 4070 Ti Super because of the $799 price point, and obviously the massive CUDA core increase to 8,448, as well as the bit increase. The bus has gone up to 256, which is a big effect, and the 22.4 effective memory speed. But anyway, I digress. Let's go back to the video.
On to the conclusion, and as mentioned, we will go through the results in the coming weeks, in which we will have the 4070 Super, this card, the 40 Ti Super, and hopefully at some stage the 4080 Super, so that we can actually see what its game performance is. The crux of the conclusion is that you as the consumer have won from this launch. NVIDIA is giving better performance on the same prices, and sometimes cheaper depending on what actual launch prices will be. But on paper right now, you're getting better performance per dollar than you were getting before. There's also going to be a further one for the consumer, and now that NVIDIA has revealed its hands, AMD is going to react with regards to its pricing, and Intel as well to a certain extent. I do hope that the consumer winning is a trend that is going to continue, because over the last 5 years, it's become really expensive individual componentry, and we are due a break. And this is all being spurred by great competition between NVIDIA, AMD, and then a maybe dark horse that is Intel. Again, I'd really like to thank Gigabyte for sending me this card for unboxing and overview. I will give you guys the results in the weeks to come. Also, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, I ask you to please subscribe if you did enjoy the content, because more subscribers, more views helps me get more equipment to be able to review as we grow with the brand. It really does help, and it really has an effect, every single one. Guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. Cheers and goodbye.